you shoot like a stormtrooper.
Hello humans, this is Tommy at InCamera, and today we're going to show you how to use this bad boy to create your own ricochet effects and bullet hits. So I'm using a variable ND filter. It's kind of just the quickest, dirtiest way to be able to close down your image, make it dark enough so that A, you can open up your aperture and get a nice shallow depth of field, a little more cinematic, and also because it's super bright, you kind of need an ND anyway. Otherwise, you're just going to have to close your aperture right down and everything's going to be in focus and it's just going to look a bit flat. More so, I'm shooting 16:9, but I'm just bringing up a 235 sort of anamorphic crop frame on here. It's a cheat, but it means I can frame for an anamorphic crop, which we'll just stick in at the end. We're not shooting on anamorphics or anything like that, but it's just like, hey, why not? You know, we're doing a sort of cinematic sequence, so stick some bars on it. It looks a bit tasty. And action! So a nice thing to try and do when you're composing a shot is just try and include some interesting kind of foreground, particularly if you're quite shallow. So as Pete comes in, we've got a little bit in here. I might actually try and drop it down a little further so we just get some of this interest in the foreground. Just gives a bit of depth to the shot.
Can you see this green dot if I put it on the wall?
Yeah.
So if we agree on, say, 3,
yeah.
So it'd be top 1, and then just as he starts to go down, pat, pat.
Yeah.
Down on that
yeah,
line.
okay, on his move. So like get in, bang, bag off the floor, bang, bang, off you go, you know? And just keep it snappy. So James, give us an idea as to why we might use this method, which is to say using a paintball gun with loaded hits, as opposed to, I guess, the more traditional method being squibs, right?
Yeah, I mean, it offers a really good alternative sometimes that can be dictated by how easy or how logistically how possible it is to rig a series or a single squib or bullet hit in either a location or a set. The one thing that the paintball approach has in its favour is that you don't have that rigging. So
yeah.
You don't have to drill a hole, you don't have to wire in your charges, and you don't have to reset. The reset time alone is a huge saving by just using the paintball method.
Yeah. Bit of a wipe down afterwards, maybe.
Bit of a wipe, yeah.
So what have we got? We started off with our red brick.
Yeah, so for that, I actually used the commercially available product, which is a powder paintball.
So you can buy these pre-made?
Yes, these are all pre-made.
Literally off the shelf. Okay, yeah. Nice.
This gives you a kind of pinky reddish dust.
Yep.
And these give more of a white grey dust effect.
Oh, look at that, very Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah,
yeah.
They're kind of intended for use with traditional paintball skirmishes and things like that. It depends on the rules of the actual game, but they're also used for target practice and stuff. And what they give you is more of a powdery impact effect. For dust hits, they're pretty good alternative rather than loading your own dust capsules.
Yeah, definitely. And I got to say as well, if you did load squibs into the ground, which happens, right? Yeah. When you see someone running away from gunfire, they're just going pew, pew, pew. It's like, is that person shooting from a plane? Because realistically, actually, that's not really right, is it?
Well, you can get into the ballistics of all this. And as we know, Hollywood or TV, film in general, yeah, there's a lot of disparity between reality and...
Sure.
Usually in Hollywood, they kind of amp everything up just so it's visually clear and visually more impressive sometimes, a lot of the times. anything to do with ballistics, firearms, it's always amped up a lot of the time.
So, most excitingly, I think, are the flashbangs. So we've got some real kind of sparky hits. As Pete was running down the alleyway, we had him running through as those spark hits were going off. We chose to use those hits because it's a metal surface, and in Hollywood terms, you know, sparkies, it's a good excuse. It's shooting against metal. Metal against metal makes sparks. I mean, it's not really that simple, but Hollywood. So what on earth? How did we manage that? I'm guessing that's not off the shelf.
No, you can buy them pre-made.
Yeah.
They're called Zirc hits or zirconium hits.
Zirconium! It's like we're in a Marvel film.
Also known as Hollywood balls.
Hollywood balls.
Or Sweeney balls.
Right.
Yeah. Upon impact, they give a spark effect, like you said, traditionally kind of visually cueing a metallic, perhaps ricochet or bullet impact, that kind of thing. Yeah, they're used in a lot of film, TV, a lot of action scenes you'd be able to recognize.
And particularly, we've definitely noticed in Star Wars films for laser blasts.
Yeah, specifically Mandalorian. So,
yeah, they really went to town.
Yeah, they used something like 7,000 Zirc hits on, you know, across a 3-day shoot.
And they use this method. They actually use the paintball gun approach, right? Just because of sheer volume, I guess. Sheer
volume, and also, you know, when you're dealing with a real location or real set, again, the reset time in having all of those as pre-wired squibs or bullet hit effects, spark hit effects, reset time alone can be mammoth, you know. And that's sometimes where the paintball approach just wins hands down.
Yeah. So we'll do a demo on each one, red against red, Zircs against metal, you know, because it's just fun. Pop, 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 bang, bang, bang. Pew, 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 pew. Pow, pow, pow. Pow, pow. Pew, pew. And he walks away. Come back here! Hey humans, while I've got you, you know, we're running a Patreon, and you know, if you really want to help keep this channel alive, get over there and give us some money. Toodles!
So the paintball gun itself, or paintball marker, is pretty bog standard. Pretty much every paintball gun can be used for these. The only addition I've got on here is a sight and a little laser that just helps keep things as precise as possible. Yes. So when you're aiming in and around a stunt person or an actor, you obviously want to make sure your hits are going to be on target, and most importantly away from anything living, to minimize any chance of any kind of fragment from someone, because some of these capsules are hard and will fragment. So for our first demo, we're going to be using some of the pink or ready dust hits, and we're going to fire them against the wall, and you should be able to see the kind of dust effect that these alone can pick up. And then this time we're going to be using the white powder. So as you can see, these powder hits do leave a residue after they've hit. Sometimes that can be an issue if you need to do a retake, you might need to clean them off, but they're quite easy to clean and reset. And sometimes if you fire the hit square on to a flat wall or something, you can end up getting a pretty realistic bullet hole effect. So as you can see, sometimes you get lucky on different textures and different distances of your hit. Sometimes they fall off like this. They can give quite a good impression of either a hole or an impact, an indentation into a solid wall. So the beauty of the paintball technique is that you can actually mix and match your own colors of dust, so it doesn't look abnormally light or abnormally dark, dependent on the surface that you're supposedly revealing through a bullet hit. So I'm just going to add a mixture of light and dark dusts here, and hopefully you'll be able to see a rough variation in how visible they are relative to this wall. So here we go. Ready? So as you can see, there was some light and dark dust there that, depending on how you kind of want the look to look like, it might look great or better if you've got a variety there. So it isn't all just very, very uniform, bright white dust. So for our bullet hits or ricochets off metal or a metallic surface, we're going to be using these zirconium hits, which I've made. You can buy them pre-made, but you need a pyro license and they're quite expensive. If you do have that license, you can buy the constituent material to make them, which is the zirconium powder, which is a grey metallic powder that you can fill these empty paintball shells with. Now these are kind of like regular load, kind of like your Hollywood level bullet high caliber effect. So let's give these a try. Now the benefit of being able to make your own allows you to vary the concoction or the mixture ratio of how much powder you put in. So the more powder you put in, the larger the sparks and also the longer that they live. Now these are kind of made or tailored more to look like a laser blast effect, where the sparks would be a bit more of a shower or last just that little bit longer upon the impact. So let's give these a go. So to make your own paintball capsules that you might want to load yourself with dust or liquid effects, you can buy these plastic halves and they clip together to make a sphere, and you can obviously add your own filling to them. Now the only thing that's slightly tricky to do without a pyrotechnic license is the zirconium hits, because the zirconium powder is actually a prohibited powder and you need a pyro license to acquire. So that's the only thing that is not easily obtainable. But don't worry, because we'll be shooting our own elements of these spark hits using zirconium and including them in our elements packages for our Patreon members. And a big thank you to Ian from Modern Combat Sports, who very kindly donated us a few of these empty paintball shells to help us demonstrate today the type of hits that you can load yourself. So what I'll do is I'll tuck myself around this corner, and when I know Pete's left, I know that then I can probably get to the end of here. I think that's good where you're running and you're kind of like upright, and then you'll kind of, as you would, you'd flinch kind of in slightly ducky duck.
Yeah,
ducky
ducking. For this last couple of shots where we're getting sort of spark hits hitting near the wall with Pete head on, I want it to look as much as possible like they're very close together without them actually being very close together. So I've actually taken my ND off, I've stuck the ISO up quite high, made the image super bright, and then closed the aperture right down. So what that means is it is, although it's sort of flattening the image a lot, it's also not, because we're shooting down the line. We're still getting depth of field, but it is making it look like Pete is closer to those hits than he in fact is. It's also helping me focus on a 200mm lens with him running at me. Any help I can get, that's all good. Action. Okay, that's good. Jakes, can we have it a little more head height?
Okay.
Once he starts getting close, it's really getting into like this.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, ideally, let's keep it up here.
Okay.
And I'm a little bit low, so I am aiming up.
Okay.
So if anything, sort of head, shoulders, or a little bit higher even is good. Yeah!
Oh, that was so cool.
Just literally
Bang,
where those hits were was perfect. We're going to shoot at 120 frames a second, a little bit tighter, just to get some of that, you know, John Woo action, ridiculous slow-mo vibes.
Oh my God, Michael Bay.
So this is literally the final shot, which we're going back to 25 frames, and it's just something, because I think if we cut from slow motion to Pete arriving indoors, that's just going to look a bit weird. So I'm going to get a 25 frame shot where I'm going to be shooting Pete running full speed at the camera. I'm going to tilt down to his feet as his feet exit the frame. Then we can cut to him arriving indoors. Well, that was a little too much fun. Hope you enjoyed that, and stay tuned because we're going to be revisiting some of those techniques whilst throwing in a few extra tips and tricks in order to recreate our own little action sequence, paying homage to the legend that is action filmmaker John Woo. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, go to Patreon, help us out there. And that's it for us, and we'll see you next time.
Right fellas, I'm off. I'll see you later.
See you, mate.